Good afternoon to our audience joining us on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, as well as on YouTube Live. This is JB here with you in the Stream Center, monitoring several different feeds coming out of the UK. As, of course, we have the developing news story that is breaking around the world this morning. Queen Elizabeth II, under medical supervision, the royal family is said to be at her side. The shot that you're currently looking at on your screen, as we understand it, according to the BBC, reporting that Prince William, Andrew, and Edward have landed in Aberdeen. This is the plane that was carrying the Duke of Cambridge, the Duke of York, and the Earl and Countess of Wessex. This is now, of course, serious enough to where the royal family is being rushed to be at the Queen's side. Should this be something serious enough to where, of course, the Queen her health is in, of course, in serious jeopardy. We're continuing to follow the very latest reports out of the UK. We're, of course, working on it here in our newsroom, the very latest on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. We will have streaming coverage here shortly. That's coming your way next on WFLA Now.
Longest serving monarch in the world. Just celebrated her platinum jubilee just a few months ago, but
Good morning to our audience joining us on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, as well as on YouTube Live. That's also a good evening for our UK audience as we're monitoring the situation here in the UK with Queen Elizabeth II under medical supervision. The royal family is being escorted to her side. We've got coverage coming your way here in just a few moments. Just want to let you know that, of course, we're streaming across multiple platforms this morning, and will continue to do so over the course of the coming hours. As we have been alerted, 1 o'clock Eastern time, which would be 6 o'clock local time in the UK, is going to be a key time and a time when an announcement could be made regarding Queen Elizabeth II and her condition. We're, of course, organizing efforts here at WFLA. Our team will be with you here momentarily as we continue to monitor the situation outside Buckingham Palace and also here outside the gates at Balmoral. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending, of course, on where you are watching from. JB here with you live in our stream center alongside Lee Span on the right side of your screen, monitoring news out of the UK. Of course, the news that really is global at this point. People around the world are sending their thoughts and prayers to, of course, the royal family in the UK, Queen Elizabeth II, currently under medical supervision. The royal family being rushed to her side and is likely mostly in position as far as being at her side. Lee, this is a sad day, but also just an outpouring of celebrations taking place online on social media as people celebrate the life of Queen Elizabeth II. Even though we have not received news that she has passed, people are starting to now prepare and brace for that news. And of course, we are doing the same here at WFLA.
Yes, because on social media, you're seeing history, biopics of her throughout the years, of her many, many years serving as a monarch. 70 years. She just passed earlier this year. She's picked 15 prime ministers and appointed 15 prime ministers. There's been 14 presidents during the time that she has been on the throne. So I would venture to say there's so few people who have a real vivid memory of her not being the queen. I mean, you would have to be well into your 80s to remember real vivid memories of her not being the monarch of the UK.
Yeah, I mean, you and I both, our lifetimes, we've only known one queen. It's been Queen Elizabeth II. So many questions are being asked, but of course, we're hyper focused on what is currently going on as we see whether that's a member of the media or somebody just taking pictures. But crowds are beginning to gather outside of these two locations. Let's show you these two locations live. So first and foremost, this is Buckingham Palace, and a lot of the live cameras that we've been seeing on social media, Lee, has been focused on that flag atop Buckingham Palace, and the flag does carry significance, as I understand it.
Yeah. So once unfortunately, the news reaches that she has passed. It will come. It will go to the prime minister, and then there's a kind of a call that will go to the people who need to know, the ministers of Britain, and then eventually they want it within 10 minutes of people of an email going out that she has passed, that they will lower the flags across there and across the entire country. So when that goes down, that'll be the signal. We may hear before that, but as tradition lies, that would be the telltale sign.
And it's raining in multiple locations. We see all the umbrellas outside of Buckingham Palace. We have also seen rain coming down. You might be able to see it on camera, or at least we were able to a short time ago. Not sure if it's still raining, but it was clearly raining a moment ago here at Balmoral. And there has been some traffic going in and out of these gates as we've got the media in position outside of these gates. And of course, for folks in the UK, so many of them this is all anyone is talking about, all anybody is thinking about. This is a moment in time that it's unfortunate, but of course, this is one of those moments in time where you'll remember where you were and remember what you were doing that day. Of course, now we have some more traffic coming in to Balmoral's front gates.
And there was an aircraft bringing some of her family members to Aberdeen, which is the airport in Scotland, and then they would have to drive from the airport to their estate there, Balmoral. So, and that would include people, all of her children, some of her grandchildren. We know that Meghan and Harry did happen to be in Europe. They were making their own travel plans to get there because they weren't in England. But that means Charles, who would be King Charles when she passes. He is the first heir, and then his sister Anne and their brothers Andrew and Edward are all gathering at Balmoral right now.
The palace, in their latest communications, saying that the Queen is comfortable in remaining at Balmoral, and that her son Prince Charles and grandson Prince William were at that point on their way to be with her, and might, as we understand it, be with her as of right now. There's something that I want to pass along to our audience that is so very important, and it's more importantly here in the United States than it is in the UK. To not fall for erroneous news that is out there. When news of this magnitude begins to develop, there are those online who are looking to capitalize on that type of a moment. And so there's already been erroneous reports circulating online that she has passed.
That look real?
That look real. That have the look and have the call letters and the logos and everything that you would identify with your brain as being a reputable news source, but it's not. And even some reputable news sources have made the mistake this morning of having an article written that, as we call it in the news industry, in draft, and then accidentally publishing that article too early. That this is some of what goes on behind the scenes as far as the news industry. So it's really important that everybody remembers that, as I understand it, procedurally, the BBC is the only source of information other than, of course, the monarchy itself.
And I believe that is correct. It is the source of record. The on-air talent at the BBC have already changed into dark-colored clothing. There is this, there's a long-held list of what will happen when the Queen dies, and some people are speculating that BBC changing into the dark clothes may be an indication that some of that checklist is getting ticked off at this point. So we don't know that because that list is quite secret and has been kept under wraps for many, many, many years.
And there's so much in place as far as the preparations for this moment, correct? I mean, the Operation London Bridge is one of the primary operations that are put into place as far as preparation goes,
right?
To prepare for this moment.
Yes, because the right people need to know just like you're not going to find out, you don't want the prime minister to find out on Twitter, so the prime minister is one of the first calls, and then it would go down from there. One thing that, a lot of us in America are learning new things today, because I had heard about the London Bridge protocol, but the Today Show was reporting that the London Bridge protocols were if she were to pass in London. Well, as you know, she is at Balmoral, which is in Scotland, and so there is another set of a list of things that will happen there. And that, according to the Today Show, is called Operation Unicorn. So these are things that have been well established, especially as we have a monarch who's served for 70 years and well into her 90s. They're going to know exactly what to do. And the right people are going to know. And when the prime minister finds out, she, who was just appointed 2 days ago, one of the last times anybody has seen the Queen was able to come out and do that. And so she will be the new prime minister will be the one to let the ministers know, and then the ministers will be the one to let their people know. So it's a call list that goes down.
I can't find anything on social media that people are talking about really other than this moment in time. This is a topic that is, of course, the line of succession in and of itself is a topic of conversation as well. As we look here, we now have a live chopper shot outside of Buckingham Palace. Just take a look at the amount of people that are beginning to gather based on this news that have put there. And then look in the top left.
I'm surprised there's not more people.
Yeah, me too, actually. Look at the media gathering there in the top left-hand portion of your screen. So now a helicopter. We'll stay on this shot because this is fascinating. Just to see the amount of people that are now starting to gravitate towards the Buckingham Palace. Look, if Queen Elizabeth II were confirmed to be in Buckingham Palace this morning, the crowd would be 400, 500, 600 people deep.
Yes. She hasn't been at Buckingham Palace all summer. She loves being at Balmoral. That's where she feels most at home. And so that's where she has spent the entire summer. And even things where she normally would do the business from Buckingham Palace, she has just done from Balmoral. So we're glad that she's able to be somewhere that she enjoys.
So as we monitor the situation here, folks, we'll continue to bring you feeds. We're here live in our stream center, saying hello to you, Leaspan, JB. We're all these screens here. We're monitoring all the different feeds that are coming in from the UK.
Yep,
including this one. We'll tap touchscreen here. Take you back over to Balmoral, and there is clearly rain falling.
Yes, pretty appropriate, I believe.
I was going to say symbolic.
Yeah. It rains a lot there. But
it does. That was my next thing. Rain is not out of the ordinary for the UK, but it's raining here at Balmoral. It's also raining at least off and on to an extent, as we understand it, at Buckingham Palace. Lee, have you ever been to the UK?
No, I've actually never been. I've been over to Europe, but I've never been to London and never been to Scotland. So I've been in Ireland, which now it's not part of the UK any longer, but it's such a beautiful, tight-knit community, and the people that they live so close together in the London area that I know that this is all those millions of people will be talking about.
I want to get some comments loaded up on screen. As everybody knows who've been with us here before on previous live streams, this is exactly what we do in these moments where we feature comments out of the YouTube Live, Facebook Live comment section. This feed is now switched over to a different shot.
And it is pouring.
It's pouring there. Yeah. But I do want to feature as many questions and comments as I can out of the YouTube Live comment section. So wherever you're joining us from on YouTube Live, if you've been with us here before, you know how this works, but I'll explain this to our newcomers here. Let's get back up on screen. You see the hashtags underneath our name, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag Hey Lee. You can use any of those hashtags, and if you use that hashtag, that signals to us that you would like for us to animate your comment on screen. We can take your questions. We can just feature your comments. If you just want to send some love to the royal family, if you want to just converse with us in any way, ask questions or point out something. Let us know. Now, I have seen this a lot in our comment section. Reborn 1988 saying, "Hey JB, the BBC was saying that it could be a stroke," and I have not seen that myself. And I don't have access to BBC's programming. I have
Right.
access to their flow of information to social media. I don't have access to their programming. And also, too, now I'm not saying this comment is wrong. I'm not saying this comment is correct. I'm just saying, just also be very, very careful as to the information that you're getting online. But hey, Reborn, if you're joining us from the UK, you might have better access to some of the information that we do here in the United States.
So
I have seen food trucks going in and
Yeah.
out, by the way. That's maybe the third
NBC is
one.
now reporting that Prince William, Prince Andrew, which is her son, Prince Edward, her other son, and his wife Sophie have all arrived in Scotland now. So they are all there, and then they will, you know, whether they are in out Balmoral or if they're just traveling between Scotland Airport and their estate there.
And the drug war today, hashtag AJB, Queen Elizabeth II forever, long live the Queen. Deanna Kelly, hashtag AJB, God bless the Queen. Again, monitoring your YouTube live comments, and we'll continue to pop them up on screen. Lottie Wolves, hashtag Hey Lee, hashtag AJB. I'm a proud British girl who absolutely loves the Queen. It'll be a sad time of mourning when the eventual happens. God save our Queen. Yeah, touching. I know this is going to be an emotional moment for a lot of folks, whether it happens in the hours ahead, days ahead, weeks ahead, or beyond. Whenever it does happen, that moment of passing, it's going to be, it's just going to be so impactful for so many folks in the UK. And look, here in the United States as well. I know a lot of folks who are of English descent here in the United States, like direct English descent, and this is something that really matters to them, and something that, of course, is, as we look here, we just got another feed. Let's show you. This is still outside of Balmoral, and we have, looks like a lady standing underneath, or at least partially underneath this umbrella, who's arriving with flowers. As word gets out, we're going to start to see more and more people arrive.
Back in 2015, Queen Elizabeth did become the longest serving UK monarch, beating out her great-great-grandmother, I believe, Queen Victoria. But then just this year, she became the second longest serving sovereign ever, behind a French Louis the XIV, who started his reign at 4 years old. So, and I only say that to say how much she has been a stalwart through so many things in her life for that country, for that Commonwealth, for the whole world. You always look to Queen Elizabeth to say the right thing, to make things right, to give that very stoic but very heartfelt speech that she would give. And, you know, you always remember that she played the Star Spangled Banner on September 11th at Buckingham Palace, because she felt such a connection to America. And, you know, she has been part of all of our lives for so many years, for most of us, our entire lives.
And we were listening to some of the coverage on NBC. Of course, that's our network here, WFLA, and I had some guests on from the UK, and just the amount of love that was being shared by some of the guest correspondents that were joining the programming there, talking about how much Queen Elizabeth II has always represented the country at a global level with such grace, and represented the country and everything that the monarchy stands for. It's just the outpouring of love and support from those who have been studying the royal family for so long and are scholars of the monarchy. It's touching to see. And, you know, I don't want to get too much into this, but, you know, here in the United States, we have so many. What do you got?
Hold on, let me just make sure. Oh, never mind. See, we got it.
Got to be careful.
A spoof account, and it looks very, very real.
Yep.
So just
be careful out there, folks.
Give the second look before you announce. Yes.
here in the United States, so many figures are so polarizing, and it's a sad development over the last decade or so plus, to where um, we have, whether it's political leaders or otherwise, so many times are we talking about somebody being a polarizing figure, and to see a country rally and with love and support behind Queen Elizabeth II. Look, for me, it's heartwarming. It's heartwarming to see. It's something that I wish that we had more of here in the United States. And that just makes this more, as much as we are talking about this again as a sad day in the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, potentially being today, this September 8th, 2022. We're also talking about this being a celebration of everything that she has stood for over her 96 years in this world. So it's a day that means a lot, and it does mean a little bit different, something different to people in the UK versus here in the United States, Lee.
And she is not without her times where people
Right.
didn't love her as much as they do, but that is a testament to her longevity. That people, she weathered through those troublesome times when maybe she was, the royal family wasn't seen in such a good light at times. But 70 years, you're not, things are not going to go, cheery and rosy for 70 years. But it takes a strong woman and a strong family to go through that and still come out there, and in the end, everybody will be celebrating her,
including Jenny Hansen. Hashtag AJB the Queen is admired all over the world. I think that is a true statement. And the Queen has canceled some events in recent days. And when media in the UK, as I understand it, when they ask for questions or ask for their questions to be answered regarding the Queen's health, the common response they get, it's almost automatic at this point, is that the Queen is just suffering from mobility issues.
Yes.
Which 96? Show me a 96-year-old that doesn't suffer from mobility issues. It's true. And so that is considered to be this blanket sort of automatic response. And there has been speculation that has been in overdrive of late, as to whether or not that there has been more going on with her health behind closed doors, and that just the public at large isn't being told, the media isn't being told, to not incite any panic or any further speculation.
Which is why when the Prime Minister today put out a statement, it was a little more ominous, because it's been like, oh, she has mobility issues, she's fine. But I think the part of her statement was the whole country will be concerned by the news from Buckingham Palace this lunchtime. So that's not it's a more ominous feel coming from the brand new Prime Minister's two days into her term there. But knowing things that it was different. It wasn't just mobility issues. So much more is going on. The family is flying in. I've just been seeing that Meghan Markle will not be there. She will stay in London while Prince Harry goes to Balmoral. But when the family gathers, just like your family, I mean, you also think and these are her real family. I mean, they live a very public life, but in the end, everyone comes when needed.
There's I'm following, of course, BBC. Everyone's following BBC right now. And just to what we were talking about, according to BBC's medical editor, that being Fergus Walsh, he says, quote, "The palace has gone further than they ever normally do by putting out that statement."
Got it.
And so that this is just a massive indication, a form of communication that is normally very subtle, with things such as, oh, the Queen will not be able to attend such event, or the Queen is just suffering from mobility issues, that this speaks very loudly to those in the UK, and especially to those whose jobs it is to actually cover all things related to the monarch. He says that the key phrase in the statement released by Buckingham Palace earlier was that doctors were concerned. He also highlighted the significance of family members arriving at Balmoral, where the Queen has been staying over the summer. Until recently, her health has been relatively robust, and that we've all lived our lives with the Queen. So basically, what that translates to is that this isn't a normal hiccup as far as the Queen's health, and we're of course trying to spread as much love and share our thoughts and prayers, of course, with those in the UK. You know, I know that from our coverage of the Gabby Petito story, Lee, we that story reached a international audience, a global audience, and I know that we have a tremendous amount of people in our YouTube comment section, especially on YouTube, that join us from the UK. I know from Twitter that there's a block that exists from WFLA content internationally. I believe the UK folks in the UK have a difficulty accessing our article content and our live player content on WFLA.com, but they're able to follow us on YouTube. If you're joining us from YouTube, throw a UK flag in the comment section. I'm just curious to see how many people are joining us. You know what? Wherever you're watching from, let's take this exercise one step further. Give us the country from where you're watching right now. Give us that flag. If you're watching from the United States, let's see a USA flag. If you're joining us from the UK, join us. Use the UK emoji. And you know what's so terrible is that my screen won't actually bring up those emojis, those flag emojis. So I got to bring it up on my phone.
So when I was, while you do that, while I was looking through the London Bridge protocols, the idea is that there would be a schedule of events for the 10 days between the Queen's death and her funeral. But I don't know what the protocol is for what I believe is now called, Operation Unicorn, because it may take more time to get through since she is not in Buckingham Palace, not in London. She's in Scotland. But it's interesting that they even have the day. There you go. There's the.
They're starting to come in. I'm trying to get it to focus. It's a lot of American flags, some Puerto Rican flags. I'm sorry, Lee, continue.
No, but I just found that interesting that they have it. It is so scripted, and so that they know that it is going to be 10 days, and they know exactly to the T what is going to happen between her death and her burial and her funeral. So we had even heard, JB, we were talking before we came on, that it may be announced at 6 p.m. Their time, yeah, which would be 1 o'clock Eastern time for us. We don't know if that corresponds with the BBC having their main newscast at 6 p.m. or if that's somewhere in the protocols that allows more people to find out, who need to find out from sources rather than from the news, the political folks. I don't know, but I find it very fascinating that there is this exquisitely produced protocol of what will happen between now and her funeral.
I also too, I'll go a step further. I find it a little strange,
really,
a little bizarre that they wait for a certain time. So as I understand it, the Queen could have passed away by now, and that the announcement protocol is to do so at 6 o'clock local time.
And again, I haven't seen that. I didn't read that in.
But based on what I'm seeing too on social media, that is very likely to be the protocol, that the Queen, that it is possible. And folks, correct me if I'm wrong, because we are all learning that this hasn't happened in 80-something years. So we're in not uncharted territory, but for our lifetimes, for the most part, as Lee noted earlier, unless you are
in your 80s. I mean, she was on the throne for 70 years, so you got to give the people at least 5 years to know, 75.
And even those, if you're in your 90s, you were a kid when the last time that this happened, as far as the.
And her dad died relatively young. I mean, he had, she was not expecting to ascend to the throne in her early 20s.
Right. So this is new for all of us. Now, look, if you are a royal scholar,
not new to you.
Come on the program. You can talk with us. But I do find the announcement timing to be just a little bit strange. But you know what though? That's not. I'm seated here in the United States. I'm seated here in Florida. We're so accustomed to when news when there's news of somebody passing away, it spreads like instantaneously. There's no waiting for an announcement time. But then again, we're talking about the Queen of England.
A monarch, someone
We're
who is
talking
supposedly
about the
not,
monarch.
a little bit more than the average human being. Theoretically, they have a higher presence in this world, is what the idea is behind a royal, that they are ordained to, which is kind of, when you think about with the Pope, like we wait for that smoke because that's how it's been for antiquity. And so maybe this is the protocols are just a thing that has always been and will always be.
So we of course talked about the flag atop Buckingham Palace. Would the flag get lowered in advance of 6 o'clock, or would they do that at 6 o'clock?
Now that's according to again what I'm reading from the London Bridge
Bridge,
protocol
yep.
is that should happen relatively quickly. That the call cascade goes first to the prime minister, then to the ministers, and then to the ministers to disseminate it among there. And it says ministers and senior civil servants will also receive an email from the cabinet secretary, a draft which reads, "Dear colleagues, it is with sadness that I write to inform to you the death of Her Majesty the Queen. Upon receipt of this email, flags across Whitehall will be lowered to half-mast. The aim is that this can be done within 10 minutes." So I don't know if maybe they wait to make the call to the prime minister and then they have that. I don't know why they would do that, but maybe to give the family some time. They live such public lives. Maybe give them some time to be alone with their grandmother and their great grandmother, because in the end, you remember your grandmother, and how life moves on. So maybe just a little time with the family.
Yeah, we're all witnesses, folks. We're all witnesses, and we're all following, of course, the BBC and what they are sharing out, because again, priority has clearly been established through this protocol that whatever protocol it is, BBC is going to be the lead media agency as far as getting out that news. So all media agencies in the world are gravitating towards what the BBC is putting out, not on a minute-by-minute basis, but on a second-by-second basis. But again, back to just really quickly, just because the 6 o'clock thing is so foreign to me, because the moment that somebody dies, we had, former CNN correspondent Bernard Shaw died today. The moment that news is there's no protocol here for ever delaying news of somebody's passing. So this is clearly, of course, protocol that is put into place. But if for the Queen of England, but if we're talking about, let's say the Queen, here's my hypothetical. The Queen passes it at 7 o'clock.
Do they wait 23 hours?
23 hours until the next day?
I don't know. Surely you wouldn't think so. You in this day and age that you could keep between the staff, that you could keep that quiet for 23 hours is the protocols need to change based on how the world is right now. I mean, there is going to be a staff member who texts somebody who texts someone who it would get out. So
so I'm seeing in our comment section
yes.
that a big reason for 6 o'clock is because of the BBC broadcast being there at 6 o'clock. That's a big part of the equation. However, this would be the first time that rule would be instituted or be put into place, because the last time that this happened, there was no broadcast television.
Well, we're talking 52.
No, 52. There were early days of broadcast television. Radio broadcast. So maybe it's more of a radio broadcast protocol that has been carried over to these are the questions that I'm fascinated about being in media.
Right. And that, how much the world has changed in 70 years from when her father passed and she ascended to the throne to now. I mean, you couldn't even compare the two of how his death would have occurred and how that information would have been disseminated to how hers is going to be.
Yeah, it's quite a thought. As we look here, I'm just keeping an eye on our feeds. This is also live from outside Balmoral. Clearly, some folks who have gathered. They're on their phones. They're communicating with loved ones. They're staying in touch with, of course, I'm sure, the BBC. And yeah, the last time that we had the transition of power with the British monarchy, we're talking about social media not even being a concept.
Yes.
So now everyone, it's interesting that everybody now is gravitating towards Twitter and Facebook or your social media or refreshing BBC. Is it BBC.com or BBC.org? I don't even know the actual website. I just usually just have it bookmarked on my computer, but I believe it is BBC.com.
BBC.in. Yes, and the one thing I will say from keeping up with BBC is that they're being very careful about what they update. You know, they're not. You can look at some feeds, some Twitter feeds, and you know they're updating it 3 or 4 minutes every 3 or 4 minutes. I mean, they're putting out about one an hour as they learn the official. You know, there is no speculation in any of their reporting. They are the report of record, and they take that very seriously. It's clear.
It's so different. If this in a weird alternate universe where the monarchy was here in the United States, this would be just this would be a circus. This would be a circus. But I think that a level of real just respect and pride and has really taken over in the UK, and everyone is just now. You know, you mentioned the Pope earlier. This is a similar sort of emotion that is being evoked in people when we're talking about somebody who is a historical figure. I mean, we're talking about Queen Elizabeth II being an important part of history.
And, you know, there are plenty of people, especially here in America, that could say, you know, like, oh, I don't care about the royals. But everyone is saying, okay, so I don't care about the British monarchy, but I can appreciate a woman who has dedicated her whole life to her country and to her cause. And she has, when she made a radio broadcast before she was queen, or you know, when she was I think 21 years old, and she said that she would dedicate her entire life to the British people. And there is no doubt in anyone's mind that that is what she has done. Even though she became queen much sooner than anyone would have predicted. When her dad passed away and she was 25 years old. And now she has dedicated every minute of her life to her people.
Dennis here, hashtag AJB. If the Queen passes, it will be a sad day for the world. Catherine chiming in here a little bit with something we were just talking about. Hashtag AJB, hashtag ALEE. The BBC will broadcast it first. However, what you've said about them announcing it 23 hours later, that wouldn't happen. And you would hope that, yes, that would not happen. That that the 6 o'clock, rule, if you will, that is, of course, flexible should the Queen pass beyond that time. Here's a car let's go full screen. Look at this.
Yeah, I was wondering, this would be about the time that those who landed in
oh my goodness, here's another one.
Yeah,
I'm seeing it on multiple feeds, and
yes, I believe that
they are flying in.
They were about 45 minutes ago. They said that they had landed almost an hour, and it's about an hour's drive. So I was wondering if we had seen the family coming who landed in Scotland about an hour ago for an hour's drive arrive in Balmoral, and probably the speed at which that was so they didn't get photographed. But you know, I'm still a little surprised at the limited number of people gathering. I mean, it's a little, Balmoral is a little more remote than Buckingham Palace, obviously, but it was. I was wondering if it would be about right now that some of the people who landed would be driving in.
Those cars were going really fast.
Yes. Yes, much faster than any of the other cars that we have. So the gates were open.
40 miles an hour at least, which around, people, that was those were at least, I lost count, maybe 5 vehicles. We were monitoring it on 2 feeds.
Well, let's see. I wonder if he's going to say who.
Perhaps, let's bring up the audio here. We might have.
Oh.
start getting some audio on this feed, but it's just crowd noise. That was a correspondent that I believe NBC News was lining up for a live report. Yeah, clearly raining here at Buckingham, and has been raining at Balmoral. So that could have been the arrival of members of the royal family, without question, because there was certainly an urgency to those cars arriving.
So, because the BBC reported 53 minutes ago that Prince William, Andrew, and Edward had landed in Aberdeen, and it's about an hour's drive, and they were not driving slowly. So that would put them arriving 53 minutes.
If there's ever a time to break the speed limit,
Yep, and yeah, no one's gonna stop them.
no one's giving a speeding ticket to those cars. Look and here in the United States, look, if I knew that I had a loved one that was about to pass, and that person's moments were limited, there's no rule. I would get in the car and I would go as fast as humanly possible.
I mean, they were
and get to that person.
they're lucky that they're the royal family. They immediately hopped on their plane, flew to Aberdeen, and were able to get there and as fast as humanly possible when you're not in the same country. And then I would dare say that Prince Harry is glad that he was at least on that side of the ocean. It's going to take him a little longer because he wasn't. Harry says they're only waiting for Prince Harry now. He wasn't in England, but he was in Europe. But now I think that Meghan Markle is going to stay in London, and he's going to go on to Balmoral with his family. But I'm sure Prince Harry always talked about his very good relationship with his grandmother. They told a lot of jokes, and that he enjoyed her sense of humor all the time. And I know that he, despite whatever is going on in their lives right now, you want to be with your grandmother. And the fact that he could make that trip with a little bit more ease than trying to get across the Atlantic, I'm sure that is making him very happy right now.
Someone brought up a really good point too. Let's go back to Balmoral. We got some more cars coming in. Someone brought up a really good point. If you're the royal family, would it have been quicker to get? I mean, we were talking a moment ago about how every moment matters, right? Because you just want to be at the Queen's side. If you're a member of the royal family, you want to be at the Queen's side for her final moments, and so, or what might be her final moments. And so, could a helicopter have been used to speed up the process? There had to have been a reason why vehicle transportation on the ground was the course of action, but weather could also be a concern. We've had it's clearly a rainy day. There could
low
be storms.
Clouds. We know that we can't send Eagle 8 HD up with low clouds, and I'm pretty sure London is known for its low clouds and fogginess. But it could be too that it's a far enough distance that hopping on a plane, flying there in 15 minutes, and then driving an hour would be about the same, maybe, and then you don't have to worry about landing because of low clouds.
I did notice that when we were calling for flags, your emojis for where you're tuning in from, we did get a lot of Canadian flags.
Yeah, and that's still their monarch.
Yeah, and we have this comment that just came in from Chase. I can't get it to animate on screen, Chase. I'm sorry. Oh, there it is. #KJB, thoughts of Canadians are with the Queen, says Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And we do have that came in also, and that President Biden's thoughts are too with the Queen as well, according to his spokesperson.
Yeah, Justin's tweet about an hour ago. My thoughts and the thoughts of Canadians across the country are with Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II at this time. We're wishing her well and sending our best to the royal family. That's about an hour ago. Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister.
If you're just joining us, folks, 1 o'clock Eastern, which is about 49 minutes from now, is going to be a moment in time where we potentially could have an announcement or an update as everything that we have been reading as far as the protocol that is in place for this type of scenario involving the monarchy is that 6 o'clock local time would be that time to make that announcement. And so that is 48 minutes from now. Ooh, Balmoral's got some more traffic coming in and out. I just want to keep an eye on this. And let's bring up just some audio on this feed, see if we can hear anything. Yeah, there is some audio. But yes, 1 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock local time there in the UK. That will be a potentially extraordinarily important time if you're paying close attention to this story. And we will be launching a live stream across all platforms at that time as we monitor the very latest out of the UK and monitor the very latest from the BBC.
And again, I'm continuing to kind of skim through the London Bridge protocols that the day of her, in the hours after the Queen's death, they will call that D-Day. And then each day leading up to the funeral will be D1, D10. Now, again, this is the London Bridge protocol if she were to have passed in London. We now know that, she has been in Scotland at their house there. I mean, it's more than a house, but their estate there. And she's been there all summer. So if she does pass there, there have to be extra steps. Hauling royal.
Yeah, they were hauling royal. They were not going to let any rules of the road dictate their speed. They were
and I was
pretty
interested
fast.
that they didn't have some sort of lead car, some sort of police escort. Because streets in this area very small, not meant for speed, and so I was surprised to see that they didn't have a police escort, but maybe their drivers are well versed in it.
So, folks, here's what we're going to do. We are going to leave up our live cameras and monitor the feeds that are coming from Balmoral. Oh, we also have another feed. Let me bring this one up on the touchscreen. Showing you the flag atop Buckingham Palace. We are going to step away for a break. And what we are going to do, Lee, if you are available at 1 o'clock, up to you. What we're going to do is we're going to resume our live coverage a little bit before 1 o'clock. We're going to step away for just a moment, but the live stream will stay up and we'll continue to bounce around between these various different feeds so that everybody can keep a close eye on what is going on outside Balmoral, what is going on outside Buckingham. And folks, we'll be back with you here in about, I would say 35 to 40 minutes here on WFLA Now.
received in the left-hand car park?
Yes,
Is that you? The cops are just wondering if you'll get a chance to move it as soon as possible because we're trying to clear that car park for officers coming.
Can you step on? Balmoral.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Sorry, no, that is it's okay, now you start. That was coming into my shop. Highland Games here on Saturday morning. We keep her away from that. She's been going to that since she was a little girl. Did not attend.
Tom, have you got an iPhone cable? I've got the wrong connector.
Closing the door.
I've got one in my bag. I should get it. It's in a black bag inside the main pocket.
Shut your eyes and what can you do?
Yeah.
What was that?
Be careful
That
with the
noise.
plastic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not looking.
Yeah,
Like when you're camping or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think
Somebody's
well,
up
that's
the
probably
night.
easier than the political stuff.
It may well be.
No, that one.
I'm sure we should, but
It's worth,
yeah. Given that, yeah, speaking to him this morning about it. So William at the wheel, Edward back passenger seat,
Prince Albert's, King Albert's.
Andrew front passenger seat, and who was that?
Hey, Mitch, how you doing, mate?
Edward Sophia.
Good. Nice one, mate. Nice one. Yeah, not bad, not bad. It's a little bit wet, as usual, but apart from that, it's all good. Just a quick one, mate. Is Len looking after sorting accommodation? Do you know? He is. Is it in the mix? That's promising. All right, mate. Yeah, I'm just... Obviously, there's whoever else is coming up that you sent, Mark the Bell, Josh and all that, but there's myself, James and Fran, who are already here. Great. Okay, mate. I'll leave that with Yeah, if it's there. Hi Len, how you doing, mate? Yeah, yeah, not bad, mate, not bad. Trying to keep dry, but listen, I won't keep you, mate. Do you have any rough accommodation? Okay. Fainston. 40 minutes. Okay. Is that Fainston? Thainston. Fainston House. All right, nice one, Chief. And that's for tonight, is it? For the three of us. Yeah. Okay, nice one, mate. Grand. Cool. Okay, man. All right. Cool. Okay, cheers, then. Thanks, mate. All the best. Bye. Fainston House. He said it's 40 minutes away. There's no selling this home. It's from the home. Just down the road. I'm going to do it right now. Fucking driving an hour and 20 minutes from here. I'm going to phone them now. Hilton, down the road.
Hello again to you folks. JB and Lee here with you live on WFLA Now, live on YouTube. Apologies, we wanted to be up here back on stream about 10 or so minutes ago, but we had a tornado warning coming through. For those of you joining us in the WFLA viewing area, the Tampa Bay area, there is a tornado warning issued in Pasco County.
Around the
correctly?
Zephyr Hills area until 1:15. So we are currently live with two meteorologists on air with that. So please, if you're in the eastern portion of Pasco County, in the Tampa Bay region, please take cover and continue to keep us on stream in your phone. Just go to your safe space.
Meanwhile, here in the UK, the time has now switched over to 6 o'clock. The time is now 6 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock Eastern. And this is the time, as we understand it, based on protocol for the royal family, that we would get some form of an announcement. So we are on standby for that announcement and keeping our ears and eyes very closely locked to the BBC. Lee,
Which they did not. Yeah, it's because I was expecting it to be put like someone with their finger on the send button at 1 o'clock our time, but that has not happened, which may mean that she is in fact not passed on, that she is in her final hours with her family.
Right. I think that there has been quite a deal. It's unavoidable, speculation is, when you're talking about a story of this magnitude. So I think that there was a lot of folks wondering that
There's also a
this
beautiful
was going to be it. Right? I mean, that the Queen had passed hours ago and that this was going to be it at 6 o'clock local time in the UK for that announcement. But it could very well be that, that the Queen is in her final hours. And we are on standby, of course, for breaking news coverage for the Queen's passing. But as of right now, no announcement yet. But there is almost a minute-by-minute protocol that is put into place, correct, in the aftermath of the Queen passing, and including various different people being informed of the news. How does that exactly work? I mean, obviously, if the royal family is in the room with her, they're the first to know. They're going to be there, obviously, with medical staff as they monitor the Queen's condition. However, in the aftermath of the Queen passing, it's a domino effect of different
they're calling
things
it a
that trigger.
call cascade. So it starts, the doctors will make the announcement. The first, the family will be there. But the first person who's called is the prime minister, and from there, the call cascade begins, and it goes down to the cabinet secretary, which is Britain's highest-ranking civil servant, and then a number of the most senior ministers and officials. So the prime minister will be informed of by the Queen's private secretary, who will also tell the Privy Council office, which coordinates government work on behalf of the monarch. From there, the royal household will issue an official announcement and deliver the news to the public. There is already a script written for that notification, and it will, with the words to be used, including discretion is required, because it's not yet public when it is sent from the secretaries to the ministers. But the ministers and the senior civil servants will then receive the email from the cabinet secretary, and that's when, upon receipt of that email, flags across Whitehall will be lowered to half-mast, with the aim to do that within 10 minutes of that email. So there is a very strict protocol. Quick side note here. We had this live picture from Buckingham Palace. Wish we could have taken it about 10 minutes ago. There was a beautiful rainbow that I'm seeing all over social media.
Wow.
Because it's been raining in London. It's been raining in Scotland.
It's absolutely clearing up here. There's no doubt.
And that's why it's very appropriate that there would be a beautiful rainbow right over Buckingham Palace right about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's obvious here in the center of your screen that things have really opened up. The skies have opened up. For how long? Lee, of course, a meteorologist with 2 seals. She's not monitoring the weather at this moment in the UK, although I'm sure you could, if you wanted to, bring it up in a quick moment. But look, rain in the UK is nothing out of the ordinary, even though there have been a lot of folks online and in our YouTube comment section that have been commenting about the symbolism of there being rain and now the skies opening up. So we're continuing to monitor the situation. And TJ Leonard has this question. Again, you can use hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyLee. We can animate your comments on screen. Wanting to know, is Harry there yet?
I don't believe so, because we've been given sort of from the BBC, from the the official record, when people have arrived. And we have not received word that Harry has, although Meghan is not coming with him. And as a side note to that, Kate is not with with Will either. Will arrived driving a car with his uncle Andrew in the front seat and his other uncle Edward, not Edward, sorry, yes, Edward and his wife in the back seat. We saw them driving very quickly after they had landed in Scotland to Balmoral. Harry was not with them at the time. He was coming from another area, and Meghan is going to stay in London, and he's going to arrive later. And since we haven't heard any word that he has arrived, I don't believe that he has.
And we should keep a close eye then on Balmoral Castle, because if the previous royal convoy arriving was any indication, Harry's arrival would be in a similar fashion, probably fast, very fast, to the point where we would miss it if I'm not on it.
And
So
it
why
also
don't we
looks like
keep
it's not
this up?
raining there anymore. It was pouring earlier, and so I'm sure it's very drizzly, but I mean, it was coming down 10, 15, 20 minutes ago.
Let's remind our audience one more time, and I feel a responsibility to do this as much as possible, especially now that the time has switched over to 6 o'clock local time there in the UK, 1 o'clock Eastern here. Just please be mindful of how much speculation, misinformation, and just misdirections that there are going to be online. Really look for the validity and credibility of that information. And really, if it's not BBC,
With the check mark, because
With
a
the
lot
check
of people
mark.
are making accounts with their logo.
you got to pay attention to the right Twitter profiles, Twitter accounts, and two, that there are clever ways, maybe not that clever, but clever enough that some people get fooled, where it looks like a check mark next
I know.
next to the handle, and it's not. It is not a check mark. That to me is deplorable. I despise that conduct. It is something that is at my very core, something that I actively work. Anybody who has followed me on social media for a long time knows that my number one core priority when it comes to doing live streaming is spreading good information online and avoiding the speculation and the misdirections and all of the different, people that are out there that are trying to profit off of your, off of your clicks. So just be very, very mindful of how much misinformation that likely exists out there and how many people are trying to capitalize on this moment.
And I know some people may be joining us now because we'd said at 1 o'clock there would be this possible announcement. That is what we had heard, that sort of the protocol would be at the 6 p.m. time in Britain, that they may make an announcement and that the BBC would be the one to announce it. It has not come across the BBC's Twitter. To my knowledge, it's not been announced. So it could be that she is in fact in her final hours and has not yet passed away. But JB and I were discussing this earlier, that a lot of times with someone like Queen Elizabeth, or really a lot of high profile people, there's not a public announcement of all of their ailments. So it's been recently, she has mobility issues. She's resting. But the one that came out today was especially hard. In fact, the Prime Minister sent out the brand new Prime Minister, the one who was just appointed 2 days ago.
Liz Truss, right?
Yes, Liz Truss. She says the whole country will be concerned by the news from Buckingham Palace this lunchtime. So it was clear the family has rushed to be at her side, and all indications are that this is near the end for Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, talk about an interesting moment as far as all the various broadcast channels, television, radio, digital, and otherwise. M. Martin, fan for life, #KJB. It will be clear when announced all TV and radio in Great Britain will pause programming, and the BBC will announce it over all channels.
Thank you, Martin. That's because again, we're here in America, we're learning about these type of protocols. We don't have anything quite like the BBC, which is such a of record over there that does so much of the announcements.
Yeah, just monitoring a lot of different screens here.
We can, just taking a look back at a British monarch who served longer than any British monarchs in history. 70 years she just celebrated. She ascended to the throne when her dad died, she was 25 years old. Officially, the coronation took place a couple of years later, but essentially became queen at 25. She's served with this latest Liz Truss appointed prime minister, 15 prime ministers. She's so there have been 14 presidents while she has sat on the throne for Great Britain. She's now even the second longest serving sovereign ever, behind Louis XIV in France, who started at 4 years old. So, a lot of the British people, a lot of the people of the world, have gone through so much with this queen. She has brought us through wars and hard times and good times, and we've relished seeing her family grow up and then have new babies, and through it all, she has been there. And there are not too many people left who have real vivid memories of a time when she wasn't the queen.
Catherine Porter here, #KJB, #Lead Nothing as of yet, but Harry still isn't at Balmoral, so maybe waiting for him before the announcement. That would be, of course, something that would show just how rock solid this family really is to not make the announcement before, of course, Harry has made his way to Balmoral, where the Queen is located. TJ and others in our comment section, I do see, and to Kay, man, I do see your comment. There's no way for me to establish any validity there. And not saying that I don't believe you, but there's just again, it's difficult when there's just so much potential for misinformation to be spread. I'm not saying that I do not believe you. I'm just saying that it's not a comment that I can repeat or share out just because of its just how highly speculative it is in nature. Again, it's not because I don't believe you. Just want to make that clear.
And I've even talked about that with JB, is sort of behind the scenes, is how careful the BBC is about the tweets that they are putting out. And we're so used to getting speculative tweets and tiny little updates every 5 to 10 minutes that,
TMZ or otherwise. Yeah.
And so waiting 30, 45 minutes between very structured tweets, it's become, I want to see more, but I also know that those are the ones that we need to read, and not the ones that are speculating or people just guessing at what's going on right now.
Sarah Nicole, #KJB, do we know when Harry might arrive?
I've not seen that anywhere.
I have not, no. And so Mr. Vista, #KJB, have they given a time frame? So the time frame that we were given based on protocol was that 6 o'clock local time in the UK. That's GMT time zone, as I understand it. That would be a possible window for when news might be announced, but that was 12 minutes ago and no announcement yet. So that has come and gone, and that doesn't tell us much. That doesn't tell us much as to whether or not the Queen is alive or if she has passed on. Because commenters bring up a good alternative point that they could be waiting for the entirety of the family to be in attendance before they make such a heartbreaking announcement for the nation. It's just there's just so much unknown of what is going on beyond these gates. There was something interesting that I had read a time ago about how a sign might get posted outside the grounds as well.
That I have not seen that. I do know that they stopped the changing of the guards outside of Buckingham Palace, and I don't know where that fits in the things that happen around this passing, or if it was something that wasn't related at all, because a lot of the protocols that would happen, they've leaked out over the years, when she dies, who is told and things like that. But it was kept in a pretty closely guarded secret for a long time. And I was talking about the code name for it is London Bridge, meaning London Bridge is down, would be the beginning of these protocols. But the Today Show has been reporting that London Bridge protocols, or if she were to die in London at Buckingham Palace per se, but she is not there, and she hasn't been there all summer. She's at Balmoral. She's in Scotland. And so there are already protocols for that as well. And they are saying that is called Operation Unicorn. So maybe the 6 p.m. time frame was for London, but because it's more of a distance away, I don't know. Some of these are, again, closely guarded secrets.
Yeah, and we don't know what protocol exactly, which operational procedure is going to be followed, just because this isn't something that happens every 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, or 5 years. Closer to 5 decades, and even
7 decades.
even then, we're up to 7 decades with this current transition of power. So, from one monarch to another, it's just there isn't precedence in our lifetimes, Lee, that
Right.
we can reference and discuss and say, oh, it happened this way when, I remember when I was, 18 years old. No, that's not something that we can rely on. So the world, we were talking about this earlier, the world has dramatically changed in the last 70 years.
Yeah, the fact that they televised her coronation in 1952, that was a big thing, that it was televised. And now, I mean, we are getting shots, live pictures from outside of their Scotland estate, waiting for news of her grandson arriving and watching him drive in. I mean, the stark difference of the way the world works between 1952, when she ascended to the throne 70 years ago, and now. And again, we were saying you would have to be at least 80 to have any
Wow.
memory of her father, King George, who didn't serve very long. And I've been telling, talking to people behind the scenes, that how interesting her life was, to have been a small child, a young child, but still, one that has memories. She remembers not being in line to the throne at all. Her uncle was King Edward, and he was the king, and her dad was the brother, and she wasn't going to be queen. She was not in the line of succession, and all of a sudden, when King George wanted to marry a divorced American, they said no, and so he said, "Okay, I don't want to be king anymore." He abdicated the throne, and all of a sudden, when that happened, her dad immediately becomes king, and she immediately becomes the heir. And then her dad doesn't live very long. She's able to get married, have 2 children, but she was actually in Kenya on an official visit to parts of their empire at the time. And when she got the news that her dad passed in his sleep, so imagine being, only probably about 10 years between you're not going to be ascending to the throne, that you're not an heir, that you're never going to be queen, to becoming queen, from about 5 years old to about 25 years, or maybe 10 years old to about 25 years old. So, and then for her to have just dedicated her life to the people of Great Britain, and the things that she has walked them through, us through, there's no, it's clear that it is going to be a very sad day in the world if this does happen.
We are here in split screen now, live outside Balmoral Castle on the left, and right outside, on the right side of your screen, live outside Buckingham Palace. You can clearly see, especially now that the rain has subsided, at least for the time being, that there is a larger crowd outside Buckingham Palace paying their respects, being there for a moment in time. Again, everybody just awaiting any news or any updates from the royal family or from the BBC. But we're really keeping a very close eye on the gates outside Balmoral Castle. Reason being is because we don't know when Prince Harry will be arriving. We do know that he is en route, and he should be there. You would imagine. We don't have any time schedule. We don't have any reference point to point to as far as when he could be arriving. But you would imagine that they're doing everything in their power to get him to Balmoral as quickly as possible. And so I'm leaving that up on the left side of your screen because the royal convoy was so fast, and I almost missed it on the touchscreen. So I want to leave this up as much as possible, because if you see the gates open and you see a vehicle, going in excess of 30, 40, maybe even 50 miles an hour, whizzing by, that is in all likelihood Prince Harry, who is in the line of succession. I think 5th or 6th.
Well, 6. So every time that Will and Kate have another child, they then jump past Harry, which is again thinking back now several generations that the brother, which was King George, was not in the line of succession behind Prince Edward. Any of Prince Edward's children would have then ascended to the throne after Prince Edward died. Well, when he abdicated, it would be as if that whole line there of William and his family go away, and Harry's kids then become, if William were to abdicate. So yes, for every child that goes on that's beneath William, jumps Harry in the line of succession.
So William, George, Charlotte, and
Louis.
Little Louis.
But it should be King, but then the first in line is King Charles, who is the firstborn of Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip.
So this is the line of succession. We have this, as I understand it, on WFLA.com. But quite frankly, you're going to be able to find the line of succession anywhere, especially on a day like today and the aftermath of the Queen's passing. There's going to be so many questions about how this works now, just because, as we noted earlier, this hasn't really happened in our lifetimes, at least for Lee and I speaking. But I wanted to show this to you really quickly. I'm keeping a very close eye, again, on the split screen. Let's go back to the split screen so that we're not missing anything. You can see it. We can see it. Everyone can see it. Live outside Balmoral on the left. Live outside Buckingham Palace on the right. Update on the tornado warning. I believe it
has expired. We are now no longer in tornado coverage, but for the Tampa Bay region, if you're anywhere along or west of I-75, it is just torrential rain coming in off the Gulf of Mexico, and it's going to continue to spread east of I-75. So we're talking now it has moved in the eastern portion of Pasco County, but it's going to be eventually spreading into places like Plant City and Dover, and then eventually all the way over toward Polk County. And when this is what we were telling all morning, is that the wind flow off the Gulf of Mexico combined with a big flow of tropical moisture, which is going to make for a couple of really rainy days, not just for today, but for the next 2 days as well.
As we get back to that, Kathy Richardson, and also let's go to Kathy's comment. A sign is usually posted on the gate. Okay. Now that would be the gate at Buckingham Palace, as I understand it. That's common. That announcements are usually made with signs outside of the gate, and then H here with an easel with an announcement will likely be posted outside of Buckingham Palace.
And that's the way they've done it with the birth of children. I mean, that's more in my realm, that, as I have grown up about the same age as Prince William, that I have watched, for when he, got engaged, when they, when they had the babies, that they were all signs were posted. So we'll see.
I do know also as well that, and I'm trying to find the comment because there was somebody who used the hashtag HeyJB comment about the attire that the personnel over at the BBC, our colleagues over at the BBC, what they are wearing, and they are wearing black. Now, I think a lot of people are reading a lot into that, and I don't believe, and I would be very surprised if the BBC had any insider information as of this morning to where their anchors and correspondents were told to dress
or bring a change of clothes.
Right. That don't read as much into that as, look, it's very likely that was done in preparation for the moment, but that doesn't mean, just because they're wearing black on the air right now doesn't mean that the Queen definitively has passed. That is very much likely done in preparation for the moment. And having a change of clothes on hand to be able to wear black, as is customary for them to do so when talking about the death of their Queen. So I know there's been a lot of comments about that.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot on social media as well. And yes, the anchors are certainly wearing black. I've seen the pictures of it. But I don't know if that is some sort of protocol, because if it is, then why would we need any other protocol? If that's okay, they're all wearing black, then that means that she has passed. Then so it needs.
It's done out of respect.
Yes.
It's a sign of respect, and it is done in a way to show unity with the royal family. As I understand it, a lot of them are wearing black as well. Raven here, hashtag HJB. When Prince Philip died, they put the easel out at Buckingham Palace and dropped the flag half-staff. Yeah, and that's why also, too, that we're keeping a very close eye on Buckingham Palace, and we've been showing the flag. And I'm curious if The flag is not going to be our initial indicator, Lee, as I understand it.
That is not supposed to be, but it would be within 10 minutes of, according to the protocol from the London Bridge Protocol, is that once the Prime Minister is notified, the call cascade continues, and when it gets to an email blast to some of the senior ministers, that within 10 minutes of that email, it would be lowered to half mast. Although this says Whitehall. Now I don't know what that means. If that's if that's on top of Whitehall right there, if that's Buckingham Palace, I'm not quite sure what Whitehall is, but I'm sure our UK viewers are like, how do you not know what that is? But I don't. But I don't. But I imagine certainly at Buckingham Palace and certainly at Downing Street, they would quickly get that flag at half mast as soon as possible.
Folks, we are going to be taking a momentary break because we're going to be now launching a Facebook live stream, as it's been indicated to us by our staff here at WFLA. So stand by. We'll be back here. Lee and I will be back in just a few moments on WFLA Now.
WFLA Now will begin momentarily. WFLA Now will begin momentarily. Breaking news on WFLA Now. Here's JB Buno.
Live outside Buckingham Palace, Queen Elizabeth II has passed away at the age of 96. The royal family putting out the announcement to the world moments ago, saying the Queen has died peacefully at Balmoral Castle this afternoon. The King and Queen consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. JB here with you live, folks, on WFLA Now alongside Lee Spann here at WFLA. Terrible news, of course, that we are following out of the UK. As terrible as it is, too, of course, for so many people around the world, also, too, a celebration of Queen Elizabeth II's life as we're fixated on Buckingham Palace and the flag located atop Buckingham Palace, Lee.
And now the soon-to-be named King Charles should, according to protocol, address the nation in a televised broadcast today on the day of her death. And the Prime Minister will hold an audience with soon-to-be named King Charles, while the Ministry of Defense will organize gun salutes and a moment of silence will be held across the country. And I say soon-to-be named because there is a very strict day-by-day of set of events that will happen in the next 10 days from her death to her funeral. And it is on the second day when the Accession Council will name Charles as the new king, and a proclamation will be read out at St. James Palace and the Royal Exchange. So right now he is soon to be named King Charles and will be named tomorrow.
If there is something divine about this moment, it has to be related to the weather, because we were monitoring this all day long, Lee, and it was pouring outside of Buckingham Palace. It was also pouring right here. We'll hit the touchscreen and go live to Balmoral Castle. It was pouring here as well. And now all of a sudden, the skies have opened up, and the sun is shining down on both locations.
And there was a beautiful double rainbow across. I mean, if you haven't seen it on social media, you really should. Right over Buckingham Palace. About 30 minutes ago, which would coincide actually with probably about the time of her death, from considering how the call cascade, as it is called, the Prime Minister, newly named Liz Truss, just 2 days ago, was appointed by Queen Elizabeth. She would be the first person to be called, and then she would let her people directly under her know, and that call cascade would go. And they say that it would be about 10 minutes from the time that most people get an email and social media that the flag would be lowered. And so if you go back about 10 to 15 minutes, that's when that beautiful rainbow, really double rainbow right over Buckingham Palace formed, the rain stopped, and the sun began to shine.
I think there's a tweet that is going to break Twitter. And I say that with as much love as I possibly can, because BBC Breaking News and other BBC outlets have put out the tweet saying that Queen Elizabeth II, the UK's monarch for the past 70 years, has died at the age of 96. And in 7 minutes is up to 115,000 likes, 83,000 retweets, and 3,000 comments, as comments are pouring in now from around the world. Sending, of course, love and prayers to the royal family, and putting out there, and I'm reading them coming in on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live. Hello to wherever you are watching from. You are welcome in our comment sections. We read your comments live. Those comments being most commonly, rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth II.
She has stood so strong for so long, ascending to the throne at such a young age, just a young mom of 2 at that point. Her and Prince Philip, she was 25 years old in 1952 when her father passed away quite young. And she has stood through wars and through good times and bad times and economic downturns and economic thriving and, of course, the scandals. And there has, you can say what you will about the royal family, but you cannot say that Queen Elizabeth did not devote every moment of her life to the people of Great Britain and really the people of the world, because when things happen, major events happen, we hear from Queen Elizabeth, and we all want to hear from Queen Elizabeth, and that will be a testament that will stay for generations to come, because she is just this will be the second Elizabethan era, just like her predecessor.
Again, JB and Lee here with you live, folks, on WFLA Now. We keep our eyes and our attention and our hearts locked with Buckingham Palace here in the center of your screen. The crowd is only growing larger, but my goodness, how heartwarming it is to see the sun appear for the first time, at least on our live stream. We've been live over the last several hours, and we'll continue to stay here with you live. We're going to be reading your comments as well out of the Facebook Live and YouTube Live comment section. Just such an incredible outpouring of support for Queen Elizabeth II and the royal family coming out in our Facebook Live and YouTube Live comment sections. But what I'd like to do is read this BBC News alert. Of course, BBC News having direct ties to the royal family when it comes to news of this magnitude. And this alert reads as follows. This is very powerful. The Queen's death brings to an end the longest reign in the history of the United Kingdom and one of the longest reigns by any head of state. Elizabeth II became queen on the death of her father, King George VI, on the 6th of February of 1952. She held her coronation at Westminster Open. Now more updates are coming in, so they're refreshing on my screen. I apologize. Westminster Abbey. The following year, her reign of 70 years was 7 years longer than that of Queen Victoria, leading the monarchy from the final years of the British Empire into the age of social media. She became one of the world's most recognized and respected figures. I can't help but think about just how powerful of a moment this is in multiple respects, but this is a combination day of sadness but also celebration for Queen Elizabeth II and her life over 7 decades. We've been talking about it, Lee, over the last couple of hours on the YouTube live stream. But think about how different the world was when Queen Elizabeth ascended to the throne.
I mean, it was a huge deal at that time in 1952. I believe it was a year later, in 1953, when she was coronated. But the coronation was televised live, and that was a huge deal. It was actually a little controversial and whether it should be or not at the time. So imagine not having something live 70 years later. I mean, that is, again, she really tried to bring the British monarchy into a lot more, her and her husband both, into a lot more into modern times, again, with the coronation being held live on television. And then, in her lifetime, how the world has changed.
And now I want to, if I can, yes, let's do that. Let's go split screen on the touchscreen here and show everybody live outside of Buckingham Palace, as you've been watching here on the right side of your screen. But let's not forget the Queen and the royal family have been at Balmoral Castle on the left side of your screen. And if you joined us on the YouTube live stream a short time ago, we saw the royal convoy made up of many members, prominent members of the royal family, speeding past these gates, rushing in. And we really don't know at this time as to whether or not those members of the royal family, whether or not they were there for Queen Elizabeth's final moments, if they made it in time. I know, I'm trying to remember exactly who was there. You have the names, Lee?
Yes. So the family, because I know that Prince Charles, now soon to be named King Charles, and the Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla, they were there earlier in the day. So then flew in to Scotland was Andrew, Edward, and Edward's wife, and Prince William. They flew quickly to Aberdeen, which is in Scotland, the airport there, and then drove quickly. And there's a picture of Prince William is driving the car with his uncle Andrew in the front seat and his other uncle Edward and his wife in the back seat. So they were going very quickly. So I know that's, if you've ever been in that situation with your family, you do whatever you can. You drop everything. You get there as fast as you can. And that's, we don't know if they made it before she passed, but I do know that Charles and Camilla were there a little earlier in the day. So perhaps they were there before she died.
Prince William, Edward, Andrew, they all made it to Balmoral Castle. Harry, we don't know if he made it. Now, we know that Catherine and Meghan were not going to be in attendance at Balmoral Castle for, again, this moment in history, but we do know that Prince Harry was at least heading in that direction. Whether or not he made it, I think we're still awaiting on confirmed reports out of the UK as to whether or not Prince Harry did, in fact, make it to Balmoral Castle. But how the exact time of Queen Elizabeth's passing, whether or not it was earlier today in the announcement coming out now, approximately 6:30 local time, about 1:30 Eastern time here in the United States. We don't know who made it, whether or not Prince Harry is still heading in that direction.
And they kept an eye on. I mean, they let us know as everybody arrived. So the fact that we haven't heard, there's the
sign is
proclamation.
going up. The proclamation letting the world know that Queen Elizabeth II, her reign spanning 7 decades, the sign going up in the front of Buckingham Palace, letting the nation and the entire world know that she has passed away at the age of 96. And we'll just take a moment here, a moment of silence on stream as we honor Queen Elizabeth II and the royal family. And there, representatives of the royal family posting that sign, a sign that will be, likely already is, all over social media, a sign that will likely very much be in tune to what the statement on Twitter looks like regarding the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. Again, a monarch beloved with a long reign spanning 7 decades, passing away at the age of 96.
When she became queen, Winston Churchill was prime minister, and she has seen 14 since Winston Churchill, so 15 in total, including really her last public sighting was when she appointed and met the newest prime minister just this week at Balmoral, Liz Truss. So there's the picture of Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth, meeting Liz and appointing Liz Truss to be the prime minister will be the last time that any public sighting of Queen Elizabeth II will ever be.
And as far as now, you were talking a little bit earlier, can you repeat this for our audience? As far as what happens now going forward, there is going to be a major broadcast event taking place in the aftermath of Queen Elizabeth II's passing, correct?
So what they have a London Bridge protocol is what this is. So this is I'm sure has been updated as times have changed and things like that. But the current London Bridge protocol is that the new soon to be named King Charles will address the nation in a televised broadcast. Now, this is outside what you're looking at here, outside 10 Downing Street. So this is the Prime Minister's residence in London, where now Liz Truss has lived for 2 days. So, a lot of times these prime ministers will come out and make a statement. So I'm sure that's what's happening there. But King Charles, will address the nation in a televised broadcast today tomorrow, he will officially be named king. And then on the second day, what they're calling day 2, Queen Elizabeth's coffin will return to Buckingham Palace, but the method of travel, of course, depended on exactly where she died. If it was
Lee,
gonna,
I just want to show you this really quickly. Just look at how beautiful it is right now over Buckingham Palace. The chopper is just taking a moment to show everybody how the skies have opened up after a day of heavy rain outside Buckingham Palace. Just take a look at how the skies have opened up. And if that's not a moment of true symbolism, then I don't know what is. The chopper likely having to head to refuel. And now we have a picture of the sign posted outside of Buckingham Palace. I'll read it as: the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. And that, yes, is the same statement that was put out by the royal family on social media as shared out by the BBC. A document that will forever live on as a moment in history marking the end of one reign and the beginning of another.
we haven't had a king in 70 years. We've had a queen at the head of state there for Great Britain. And now her son, firstborn son of her and Philip, will ascend to the throne. And, he has good genes. They both lived well into their 90s. So it may be quite a while before we see another one of these. But the next in line would be, after Charles, would be, of course, Prince William, and then Prince George, who is the firstborn of Prince William and Princess Kate. So we'll have kings for a little while from here on out after having a queen for so long.
It's just you and I in our lifetimes, we have only known Queen Elizabeth II as the head member of the royal family, the head of state.
And really, in our parents' lifetimes. I mean, she ascended to the throne, sorry, Mom, 1 year after my mom was born. So my mom doesn't have any recollection of life before Queen Elizabeth. Yeah. So, you'd have to be into your 80s to have any real memories of life under King George, which was her dad. And 15 prime ministers, 14 presidents. They've all come and gone, and Queen Elizabeth II has stood strong.
What we would like to do, we're going to keep a very close eye on this shot of the podium. Again, we're going to be having live coverage for you throughout the afternoon and perhaps maybe evening or wherever you are watching from. Good afternoon to you folks. JB and Lee here with you live on WFLA Now, paying attention to all the feeds that are coming into the Stream Center, including this shot of the flag atop Buckingham Palace. What we would also like to do, something that is very much at the core of what we do on WFLA Now, is we would like to take a moment to acknowledge your comments. And this is what we do interactively on WFLA Now. You see the hashtags on the yellow stripes on the left and right side of your screen. There's hashtag HeyJB. There's hashtag HeyLee. Starting now, we're going to look for your comments out of the Facebook Live and YouTube Live comment section. And if you have something that you would like to say, if there's something that you want to pass along, we've got tens of thousands of people. I'm not sure the exact count, but I know we have a large audience right now. If you want your voice to be heard, use either of these two hashtags. That signals to us that you would like your comment to be featured on screen, and we'll throw up as many as we can to let you know that your voice is being heard out there. But really, they keep going back, this feed. They keep switching back and forth between various important locations in the UK, including this one right outside Buckingham Palace. It is short, but short is not the word that you would use to describe the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. A long reign spanning 7 decades, Lee.
7 decades. And, the way the world has changed in those 7 decades, and for her to have stood there and worked with those changes. She has a Twitter account. I'm not sure how much she was putting it out there, but tweeting? If she was actually tweeting, but it's been fascinating to watch, her family grow up, their families grow up, and then now the next generation babies are being born. I'm sure she delighted in knowing that she had such a beautiful family that came behind her.
Let's get to some of the comments that are coming in using hashtag HeyJB or hashtag HeyLee. Megan saying hashtag HeyJB, my thoughts and prayers to the royal family. Happy commenting hashtag HeyJB. She was a dedicated and dutiful monarch. I'm not sure I've ever heard a good thing about, okay, yep, these two individuals I'm not going to read. Does anyone think it would be better for, well, you know, we're going to put this comment away. I'm not sure. We're going to try to keep things positive here, folks, if we can. You can continue to use hashtag HeyJB or hashtag HeyLee. We'll try to get comments that are focused on Queen Elizabeth II. So let me just allow some more of the rules here. As we try to put up respectful comments to the royal family and give you a voice here. But yes, let's just acknowledge the previous commenter in this way. This is the line of succession, and Charles, born 1948, is next to be king, following, of course, Queen Elizabeth II, who's been queen since 1952, 4 years. 4 years after Charles was born.
Yep. So she had Charles and Anne when she thought, you know, that her dad was going to reign for many years. I mean, you know, you don't expect your parents to die when you're in your low 20s. So she had 2 children, and then when he passed on, she took a big break, you know, to become queen, and then created, and then had 2 more children much later, where that was Andrew and Edward. So she took a big break so that she could become queen and settle in that part of her life that she did not expect to happen so soon.
Let's get to this comment from Charlene. It's a question. Hashtag HeyJB. Was a statement put out regarding the cause of death of the queen, or was it natural causes? And yeah, this is going to be, of course, the highly talented medical personnel that is always following the queen and providing the queen with the medical care that she needs. The exact cause of death will be something that people are going to want to know as to whether or not it was death of natural causes. There has been endless speculation online as to the queen's health in recent days. She has canceled a couple of events. Mobility issues is the common go-to response for the royal family representatives who deal with the media. And the BBC has reported that more times than anybody can really count. But the exact cause of death, I'm sure, will come out in time. It has not been made clear to the BBC, to our understanding, or to the media at large. Betty, hashtag HeyJB, prayers for the family. May Queen Elizabeth II rest in paradise.
And I like to keep reminding people that while she is a monarch, she's also a mom and a grandmother and a great-grandmother. And so you're right, prayers to the family, because as much as she is a part of the world's family, she really does have, you know, the blood relatives that are sad, that have, you know, she's raised them. I know a lot of people, a lot of her grandchildren, specifically Harry, talk about her sense of humor, and, you know, they're an outdoorsy family. They do things together on a regular basis, just like you and your family do. And so while we are sad for a British monarch to have passed away after such a long tenure, you know, she is also loved by those around her.
Let's get to, you were talking, Lee, earlier about the rainbows on social media. Michelle asking, hashtag HeyLee, would love to see footage of those rainbows. I love to all the people of England at this time. Comments Michelle from Florida. It's all over social media. Perhaps we can do the same. We can't load them into our live stream at the moment, but we'll do our very best to share out some of the photos of the rainbows and some of the weather phenomenon that occurred over the course of our live stream on YouTube when we saw it go from rain to sunshine. And while you might think that that's a coincidence, I think that there are going to be a lot of folks who are going to look at that and see something a little bit more, something more special. Let's get to this comment from Sunshine, apropos, hashtag HeyJB. The world may have all their leaders, but Queen Elizabeth had the world's respect. And there's little doubt that that Queen Elizabeth earned the world's respect. And how could you not, with just the length of the reign, again, the longest for any head of state. It's just it's unheard of, it's unprecedented, and one that it's just hard to fathom.
Now, I'm going to ask you sort of a logistical question. If it's an NBC tweet, am I allowed to just turn my phone and show the rainbow, or is that not allowed?
Unfortunately,
Okay.
no. We have to have the
Sorry.
rights for
Yeah,
that
all right.
photo. But you
Okay.
know what? If you'd like to just show it to the camera really quickly, I can't bring it up myself. But
Right.
if you want to show me a picture of your phone, yeah,
that
a
was
little bit, a little more to
there.
that way.
Got it?
There it
See
is.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more to your left. There we go. That's a little better.
So anyway, so this was
With the UK umbrella,
with
that's
the
really
UK
powerful.
umbrella. So, but there's plenty others. But I thought since it was NBC, we could show it. But you know what? Maybe my phone just turned itself on around.
There you go.
I didn't post anything.
Making sure that we're showing what we're allowed to be showing, folks, because on social media, there's going to be so much that comes out, and just making sure that we're following the rules here on WFLA Now. Lee Span, JB here with you live, and live in our stream center as we continue to monitor the aftermath of this massive historical news. Queen Elizabeth II passing away at the age of 96. So let's break down the expectations, Lee, if we can, for the minutes and hours ahead. We keep showing this podium shot. Has there been anything regarding a schedule as to when we're going to have this massive televised moment to all of the UK and all the world?
That I have not seen. According to protocol, is that we should hear from King Charles today. I don't know that there is a protocol for hearing from the Prime Minister, which is outside of 10 Downing Street, what we're looking at here. So I'm sure at any, that a Prime Minister would make a statement. It does not necessarily need to be in the protocol. It's just, now Liz Truss is the head of the government there in Great Britain and in I guess just in England at this point. And so I'm sure we will hear from her. It does not necessarily have to be in the official protocol for that, but in the official protocol, we are to hear live televised broadcast from now King Charles. That's happening today. He will officially be proclaimed the king tomorrow. There's a set number of days between her death and her funeral, and that is 10 days. So during days 3 to 4, you'll see King Charles go throughout the UK, visiting the Scottish Parliament, Hillsborough Castle, St. Anne's Cathedral, and on day 5, a procession will begin, starting at Buckingham Palace and ending at the Houses of Parliament. And that's where the Queen will lie in state for 3 days as members of the public will visit to see her coffin. Then 6 to 9 days, King Charles will visit the Welsh Parliament, and the government at this point will be putting the final touches on the plans for the day of funeral. They are expecting hundreds of thousands of mourners to flock to the streets during the 9th day, and the funeral being held on the 10th day. They said employers are not obligated to give staff a day off, though it will be a day of national mourning, and a 2-minute moment of silence will be held across Britain. And the funeral will take place at Westminster Abbey, followed by a committal service at St. George Chapel, Windsor Castle, where the Queen Elizabeth will be buried at King George IV Memorial Chapel, which is, I guess, her dad's namesake there.
Again, live here. Also outside of Balmoral Castle, beyond these gates are where Queen Elizabeth II has passed away at Balmoral. And again, we don't know whether or not the royal family made it in time to be there. I'm sure that that some members of the royal family were there at her side, but whether or not others who were rushed in that royal convoy made it, it's unclear. But if we hear anything, we'll pass it along here to you live on WFLA Now. This not only establishes Charles as king, but we now have a new heir to the throne as well. And it comes in the form of the Duke of Cambridge. It comes in the form of William, who, of course, you don't need me to talk to you about who William is, who the Duke of Cambridge is, as we see some of the vehicles get through here to Balmoral Castle. But, of course, everybody moves up now in the line of succession. And Charles will be coronated as king and take over as the head of state for the royal family. And this is the next 10 days are going to be history for the United Kingdom. And, of course, all the people that are citizens of our neighbors to the east as far as our our UK neighbors. I'm just thinking about how much this is a moment in time where, of course, we're transitioning from one reign over to the next.
And I keep playing in my head. Earlier today, there was a picture of, the beautiful princess and Kate and William and their 3 children as they walked Prince George to his first day of school. Prince George, who is now one up closer to the heir to the throne, and what his first day of school must have been like today. He went from 4th to 3rd in line while he was in school. And I don't know if maybe they were able to go get him from school, but that's one of the reasons why Kate is not in Scotland, is because they are imagining that she's picking him up from school, doing the things that a mom does.
We'll continue to monitor your Facebook Live and YouTube Live comments. Please keep things kind, considerate, and respectful as we monitor your comments. If you use hashtag HeyJB or hashtag HeyLee, we can animate your comments on screen like this. We had Kayla up. Let me just acknowledge Kayla really quickly. Hashtag HeyJB, prayers to the family. I hope the family gets the privacy that they need. They are a family that has, of course, their vulnerabilities as well. They're a family on the grandest stage at their royalty, but they are a family, and they are, of course, deserving of the same privacy that any family should get when we're talking about the loss of a loved one. And Ange, hashtag HAB, this is such a sad day. However, we are a part of a major historical event. It is. It's the end of one reign and on to the next. And also, as some folks that were just chiming in on YouTube, saying hello to the YouTube live comment section, a lot of titles change now.
Yes.
We're talking about Duke of Cambridge going on to become the Prince of Wales.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so a lot of shuffling that goes around. This is a major reorganization of the royal family, and a lot of moving parts. And this is something that I am by no means, and I will make this very clear to our audience, I'm no expert, but I'm looking forward to being humbled by watching this all unfold over the next 10 days and watching how a royal family transitions from one generation to the other. Unless you are somebody who is what, 80
in your
or 90, 80
yeah.
in your 80s or your 90s, you can't recall the last time that there has been a major transition of power from one head of state to another within the royal family of the United Kingdom. So we're all going to be witnesses to this, and I'm looking forward to, as sad of a day as this is for Queen Elizabeth II, this is a moment in history, and we are going to be witnesses to watching this all unfold now over the next 10 days. And we'll do our very best to live stream as much of it as possible, because it will be fascinating. It will be fascinating.
Yep. As many people will say, God save the king, the queen. Now we have to say, God save the king.
God save the king. God save the king. Getting to some other Facebook Live comments. Again, you can use hashtag HeyJB or hashtag HeyLee. This is a big question that continues to come through. Who was actually there? Who was able to say their final words to the Queen before she passed at Balmoral Castle? Barbara wants to know if Harry made it before her passing. We don't even know if Harry has made it to the property. That's still something. I've been looking for updates on Harry and his travel, and we know that he was in Europe. We don't know if he made it over to Balmoral Castle in time.
Because they gave us updates for everyone throughout the day. Okay, now this person has left here. They're on a flight to Scotland. So the fact that we haven't heard that
the Prime Minister
Harry
is speaking now. Let's transition over. This is Prime Minister Truss. Let's listen in.
Her life of service stretched beyond most of our living memories. In return, she was loved and admired by the people in the United Kingdom and all around the world. She has been a personal inspiration to me and to many Britons. Her devotion to duty is an example to us all. Earlier this week, at 96, she remained determined to carry out her duties, as she appointed me as her 15th Prime Minister. Throughout her life, she's visited more than 100 countries, and she has touched the lives of millions around the world. In the difficult days ahead, we will come together with our friends across the United Kingdom, the Commonwealth and the world to celebrate her extraordinary lifetime of service. It is a day of great loss, but Queen Elizabeth II leaves a great legacy. Today the crown passes, as it has done for more than 1,000 years, to our new monarch, our new head of state, His Majesty, King Charles III. With the King's family, we mourn the loss of his mother, and as we mourn, we must come together as a people to support him, to help him bear the awesome responsibility that he now carries for us all. We offer him our loyalty and devotion, just as his mother devoted so much to so many for so long. And with the passing of the second Elizabethan age, we usher in a new era in the magnificent history of our great country, exactly as Her Majesty would have wished, by saying the words, "God save the King."
Prime Minister Liz Truss with a prepared statement ending, as we were just talking about, Lee, with for the first time in more than 7 decades, we will be saying God save the King instead of God save the Queen. A touching tribute to Queen Elizabeth II, and again, another moment in history as we stay here with you live, folks, on WFLA Now.
We are here.
Yep, and we'll stay here with you for a little bit longer as we continue to make sure that you have a voice in the Facebook Live and YouTube Live comment section. There is a crowd here outside of Balmoral Castle. For those of you still just getting acclimated to what we're looking at, we were live with Buckingham Palace at the beginning of the live stream, showing you the crowd that was developing and growing larger outside of Buckingham Palace, but the Queen not there. Queen at Balmoral Castle, where she passed away earlier today. The exact time, the exact cause of her death, those will come out in time. We're not at that stage just yet. However, a lot of activity outside of Balmoral Castle, including the arrival of the royal convoy earlier that we had on YouTube Live. And now we're seeing a lot of cars, of course, come and go from the castle itself as the family is in a state of mourning. We have a King Charles III in the UK, who is now mourning the loss of his mother, but assuming, as they put it, an awesome role, an awesome amount of power as being the head of state in the UK for the royal family.
And we continue to use the weather as such an analogy for how we all feel. It rained all morning. It was pouring. Then the sun came out. It was a rainbow. And now there are more raindrops and more tears as more people are finding out the news of the death of Queen Elizabeth II.
We'll continue to, over the next, we'll stay with you live for a little bit longer on WFLA Now, on Facebook Live and YouTube Live across all of our platforms, including WFLA.com, the WFLA app. I love this comment from Florian. I think that there are a lot of people who, so here in the United States, and I can speak, of course, for the United States, I have never lived in the UK. I've never visited the UK. I hope to visit the UK one day. I know you do. You do as well, yeah. Lee. I don't know. I can't speak to what it is like today for the people of the United Kingdom, the people of England, the people of Scotland, the people who are just experiencing something that they haven't experienced really in their lifetimes, as we've been noting, unless you're considerably older. I can't speak to what it is like for them. I can speak that there are folks here in the United States that are so very much, let's just call them fans of the royal family, and who follow all the developments that happen with the royal family, whether it's William or Harry or Kate or Meghan Markle. Of course, when Meghan Markle was a major news story years ago with Harry, just there are some people who are just completely locked into everything related to the royal family. And I can't speak for, I'm not one of those people. I'm being very coy and honest with you. But some people are, and some people feel this incredible kinship with the royal family and feel this incredible sense of connection to the royal family and want to know everything that is going on within the royal family at all times. I love this comment from Florian. I'm going to put it up here on our screen. Hashtag KJB. She was like everyone's grandmother, the most respected queen in the world. Her death shocked everybody. One of the saddest days of 2022. Rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth II. But this is a comment that just sums up how connected some people feel to the royal family and how connected some people feel, Lee, to Queen Elizabeth II.
I have always said that Queen Elizabeth looks just like my grandmother. They look identical. And so you're right. She is everyone's grandmother.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the hair that, the way they coif their hair from, in that
walk.
time,
The walk.
so
The walk.
she was, I have always said she looks like my grandmother. So you're right. She is everybody's grandmother, because good times, bad times, family quarrel times, your grandma is always right there, and that's what she was for her family. But it's also what she was for many people around the world.
Got this comment that's coming in. Thank you, Florian. That's a beautiful comment. And we have another one from Erica. Hashtag KJB. The queen is now in her heaven with him, with her forever king. Hashtag London Bridge has fallen. Yeah, we've been talking quite a bit about London Bridge as well.
As the code name for the protocols that would happen after her death, because it would be that London Bridge has fallen.
Yeah, and this is and to Darcy and other commenters, Lee was just commenting on this a short time ago, going over Operation London Bridge. I read an article called London Bridge, says Darcy. It explains everything that happens from her death in the next 10 days. This is going to be protocol that establishes the next reign. And so again, I was talking about how humbled I feel and how I'm sure humbled everybody feels to be witnesses to what is going to transpire over the next 10 days, because this is something that that is generational and with the most famous family in the world.
Yes.
I mean, really is.
And, and one of the things that the Prime Minister Truss said, which you forget because you think, okay, it goes back to, the royals go back a couple of generations, but you forget it's been thousands of years that that this Windsor family has, had a line of succession that has happened. So while for us, it's been 70 years, I mean, this is part of antiquity that's been going on for so long. And of course, the world has changed a lot in those years, even in the 70 years, as we've talked about. And so certainly changed over thousands of years that this family has reigned over parts of the world.
Also, too, with the wrinkle of, the last time we were talking about this, the last time that they had to do a transition of power like this, they didn't have to worry about Twitter.
No.
They didn't have to worry about Facebook or social media.
You had to print a newspaper.
That's right. It was all in newspapers. So this is a completely new task, even for representatives of the royal family who are going to help facilitate these next 10 days, these crucial next 10 days from the transition of Queen Elizabeth II to King Charles III. And we're going to have coverage for you folks on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, as well as, hey, look, our live stream is getting put out to a lot of our Nexstar sister station websites, social media platforms, and apps. Wherever you're watching from, good afternoon to you. You can follow Lee. You can follow myself on social media. We'll post updates as we get them. There's so many questions that still remain. We do not know the cause of death for Queen Elizabeth II. It is likely related to natural causes, but if there was anything else that played a part in her final moments or the decline of her health, we will find that out. And of course, from the BBC and from the royal family, and that will get put out on our various social media platforms. Believe me, we know that this information is going to be all over the place, but we are going to be putting it out on our pages as well. And there's a link in the description on this video. If you're joining us on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live, you'll see a link in the comment section that will take you over to the corresponding Nexstar station website, where we'll have all of our coverage for you. All the storylines that are going to now unfold, Lee, over these next 10 days. This is a moment in time where there's going to be developments every hour for the next 10 days. New wrinkles that are going to emerge, new exciting developments, announcements from as we transition from one chapter of the English monarchy to another. And as those questions get answered, we'll make sure that we have coverage for you on whatever website app or social media platform that you're watching on. Just click on the link in the description on this video. Lee, any final thoughts before we wrap up our live stream here?
Well, at some point today, the protocol calls for now King Charles to give a televised speech. Perhaps he will give more information. Perhaps he will give a tribute to his mother, and then this will then start the 10 days that will take us through the funeral, including 3 days that she will lie in state. And they are expecting hundreds of thousands of people to turn out to London, to turn out for the procession that will take her through the streets to her lying in state position, and then through the funeral, and then of course to her final resting place. So a lot of people will want to be here. A lot of people just got to celebrate her in her Platinum Jubilee. And I have no doubt there will be people right back out to celebrate now the end of her life.
We'll just end out here on some of the we call this file footage, archive footage that we have from the UK and
looks like my
of
grandmother.
Queen Elizabeth II. And we'll let this play out for just one final moment before we conclude our live stream, just to show you a little bit of Elizabeth II. Of course, in better health and better spirits in years past. So that smile is iconic. There's no doubt about it.
Those
It reminds me
pearls.
of everyone's grandma's smile, and the pearls. Yes, the dress. She exuberated grace, and it's a sad day, but also a celebration, truly, of her life. As things now develop in the days ahead, we will continue to provide you with streaming coverage of all of these major historical moments with the transition from the reign of Queen Elizabeth II to King Charles III. You can click on the link in the description on this video. It will take you over to WFLA.com or one of our Nexstar sister station websites or apps where you can read the very latest and get follow-up articles about Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles III, and everything connected to the royal family. And of course, Lee and I will continue to post things on our social media platforms in relation to the passing at the age of 96 of Queen Elizabeth II. Thanks so much for joining us on WFLA Now, and additional live streams coming up in the hours and days ahead here on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, YouTube Live, Facebook Live as well.